Welcome to another episode of StuTube. Let's take a look at some Bitcoin charts. I know a lot of people are getting very excited because we got a bounce. Just like when it happened on the weekly, you guys, people were getting very excited. And I get it. When you see it on the weekly, on the 4 hourly, stuff like that, it does look good. The fact that we came down to the support level, we actually dropped this support level and regained it, or reclaimed it rather. That's one reason why I'm very careful with my shorts right now, is because I see the possibility that we could trend up a little bit higher. I'm going to get to that in a little bit. But overall, you guys, you know what my opinion is on the market. I've been very vocally bearish since our June 13th live stream. And the reason why I'm still holding on to that bias is just because basically what I said was going to happen happened. And it was basically when we lost this structure, we came back up, tested this STUBER fib. I figured, as soon as we got this rejection here, this candle, that's basically when I made up my mind that that looks like a classic STUBER fib rejection. If this was a 1 minute or a 5 minute, I would be shorting the shit out of it. And generally speaking, this is the interesting part, you guys, is that a lot of people love that setup. Specifically, people on my YouTube, on my Twitter, in the Discord community here, a lot of people love the STUBER fibs and they love using them when they're trading the 1 minute and the 5 minute and stuff like that. But then when it comes to the 4 hour or the weekly, people in crypto traders are generally very impatient, and they throw everything they know about market structure and those pullbacks, sweeping lows and sweeping highs and getting those pullbacks, all of that goes out the window on the longer time frames. And people just think that when there's that reaction after that market's structure sweep, that's where, as soon as it's reclaimed, people immediately get too excited, I guess. Generally speaking, it's like something like this. I mean, as soon as we lost this and we got that rejection, I was basically saying that, at this point, being we also had this RSI divergence here, going from extreme over conditions down to not so much. So we came to the same price targets, same price levels with significantly less strength. So there was no reason to be bullish there. So I got extremely bearish. And I predicted that I thought we were going to sweep these lows. But then something to watch for was not necessarily just, everybody loves to just play breakout trades. Everyone thinks that, hey, this level was lost. Now it's time to start shorting. Playing breakouts is actually dangerous, and that goes for any time frame basically. Sorry, just getting my colors here. Basically, when you're playing breakouts, yes, sometimes they happen and sometimes they're violent, and that's what makes a person FOMO into those positions so often. But generally speaking, price action chops around more than it trends and more than it breaks out. So that's where you get that, basically like a sweep of the lows, for example, and then a retrace to the upside. Same with when you break through resistance, and then there's often that deep pullback before carrying on to the upside. That's where using fibs comes in handy and makes it so structured, and you're just able to keep a level head, right? But basically, after we came down to here, I said, I thought there was a good chance we get some sort of a reaction after sweeping these lows. We'll come back to the 786, 886 fib pocket once again. Everybody will start getting extremely bullish at resistance, and that's exactly what happened. This was right before the Trump speech at the Bitcoin conference there. And I mean, I was looking at it as, hey, we're trading right into resistance. This has been a big hyped up event, and I think it was a perfect sell the news event. And right into resistance, everybody got super bullish, and I get it. What happened with that conference, and there was a lot of bullish statements made and all that sort of thing. I'm not denying that. The thing is, when bigger players are getting into the space, when they're getting bullish on the space and all that sort of stuff, they have a lot more patience than us. We expect, hey, this was said, this is happening in the market in the next couple of hours. Those smart money doesn't act that way. Smart money buys support levels. Smart money has way more patience than us, and they didn't get a ton of money by pumping other people's bags. So, just because there's bullish things happening in the space, the thing is, guys, every market cycle, even in bear markets, there's always bullish fundamentals happening around crypto. It is always evolving in a bullish manner, but bear markets still happen, bearish trends still happen, pullbacks still happen. If anything, crypto's starting to act more natural just because, with the bigger players getting into the space, they actually get those structure breaks and those pullbacks. We're not breaking out as aggressively as we did a couple market cycles ago. Bitcoin isn't fluctuating 40% a day anymore like it was when I first got into it. 40% is a crazy amount now, and we don't really see that because the bigger players got into the space. Everybody celebrated that fact, and they tamed the market. The bull markets are getting smaller percentage-wise. Obviously, the number goes up drastically. Getting dry mouth here, getting something in my throat here. But they just basically, they've calmed the market. Like, we don't have as much volatility. Percentages are getting smaller and that sort of thing. And that's just because it takes extremely exponential amount of more money every market cycle, because the market cap is growing. Even though we have things like the halving and only half the amount of Bitcoins being mined, yes, but it is still being mined. There is still more in circulation. There's way more leverage in contracts and futures and stuff like that than ever before. I know we like to say Bitcoin is the answer to everything because there's a bunch of money printing and stuff in the real world. Yeah, well, adding a bunch of contracts, paper contracts on something, I can trade way more Bitcoin than I have, for example. There's more in circulation than the actual physical amount. So there's so many things different with the market cycles since the bigger players got involved. But yeah, that's basically... and I don't want to sound too bearish, you guys. This is all just a bearish theory that, hey, my thing is just I'm open to the idea of a big correction is all. I don't know for surely where it's going to end. If market structure changes, let's say we sweep another low, set another lower low, and then we bounce like this and we actually break a lower high, I'm going to be extremely bullish at that point. Then, you know what? All my other crazy targets that I had in mind, those go out the window for now. But again, that's where I would start looking for a pullback. And if we could get some sort of a STUBER fib pullback after a structure break like this, that's where I would actually get very bullish on the market. I may not get that. That doesn't have to happen. Things can happen a lot faster than that. They can happen a lot slower than that, but I'm open to the idea. And one thing that a lot of traders and influencers and everyone has trouble with is just basically having a backup plan. What's your plan if your theories are wrong? If right now you're saying Bitcoin is going to all-time highs next week or next month or whatever, and you are just 100% positive about that fact, what happens if you're wrong? Do you have a strategy in place to kind of protect yourself? And one thing that I've been saying was basically, as everybody got extremely bullish as we traded into that level. This is on the weekly. I have this fib pulled from the very top, our all-time high currently, and to where our dump has currently dropped. I guess where we've currently found bottom. Something to consider is that we might actually have a different fib pull here, just because the way I generally look at it is, hey, we have this low, we broke that, set a lower low. Well, where's our highest point between the low and the lower low? That's up here. So that would actually be a smaller range pull. Just that since it's at all-time high, I wanted to give some extra wiggle room. So I just did the full range. So that's kind of why I did that. But this is actually what I'd be looking at. And it doesn't change anything. Either way, we went to the STUBER fibs, right? But we lost our low, set a lower low. This is on the 4 hour now. Pulling the fib from our lower high, which is the highest point between those two. Look what we came up and did. Absolutely perfectly filled that 786, 886. So here's a perfect example, guys, right? And honestly, yeah, you could see it. I'm going to bring up an indicator in a little bit here. But you could see it that the market started shorting way too late. Everybody started shorting when the move already happened. And then everybody late high leverage longs or shorts rather, trying to catch a breakout, and then everyone got wrecked again and became bullish up here again, right? So the move already happened, and then people are getting bullish into resistance, just like they got really bearish at support. But that's just a typical structure break followed by that pullback up to that 786, 886 fib pocket. So even now, the way the structure looks right now, I still think we will go down a little further, but I do see absolutely the possibility that we end up pumping to the upside a little bit, because something that happened recently. First of all, we lost kind of this little uptrend that we had. We lost support here, but even more so when I bring up the auto charting tools, we did also lose this higher low on the 4-hour chart. Now at this point, that's where I start looking for that pullback again, right? So even though that's a bearish structure break there, I'm open to the idea that, hey, now, you know what, we're actually technically breaking out of this little bit of resistance. So absolutely, I think there's a possibility that we end up trading a little bit higher. So even if we get something like this for a more immediate swing, that would just be a classic Stuber fib setup, right? Because we had that structure break, and then I'm looking for that pullback to that level. And that's where I start looking for shorts. I'm not looking for shorts so much down here. I am a little bit, like, I'm still favoring the bearish side, but I'm just being a little bit more cautious right now, updating stop losses quicker and stuff like that when I am scalping. So I'm being cautious, but honestly, I still have my bearish bias because at the end of the day, I think the weekly chart outweighs the 4-hour chart. So yes, I think it's absolutely possible we see some sort of a rally, but I don't think this dump is over yet. I just want to reload this page here and bring up the liquidations indicator. This is what I was talking about before, where you can see that people started shorting late, right? As we got this dump to the downside, which we were totally ready for here because we got that structure break. We pulled back to the Stuber fibs. That's where I got bearish, played this whole trend to the downside. And then here on the way down, people started shorting and chasing the trend, especially down here. You can see that we actually grabbed this last little bit of liquidity. And then look how much liquidity there was above us. All these yellow and brown lines here, or gold, whatever color you see, this was all building as we started trending to the downside. So this is just people, and so on my liquidations indicator, I actually only have the 50x and 100x liquidation levels, just because that's a more immediate reaction, because obviously it's the easiest to take out, and I usually trade shorter time frames. So yeah, just seeing all this liquidity building up here, that's where I started to get cautious. You know, when we ended up breaking support here, yes, although it confirmed that I'm actually more bearish than ever, I was still open to the idea of playing the upside for a little bit, just because we had so much liquidity for the market makers to grab. And now what's happening is, as we trade right into my resistance pocket during the Trump speech, or right before it technically, everybody got extremely bullish. All of a sudden we start seeing these liquidation levels forming to the downside. And something that's interesting about where these liquidity levels end currently, if I just remove here, let me actually remove this, and I am going to pull a bullish Stuber fib and check out where those liquidation levels are, smack in that Fibonacci pocket there. I just think there's, you know, at least a good possibility that we eventually end up trending to the downside there. I don't know the exact way that it's going to pick. I personally think we see a little bit more upside followed by a big rejection back down, because the thing is, like, look how even the retail long has changed so much, because I actually thought that this retail long was going to be around 70-75% as we traded up to this fib pocket here. It was only at around 50%. It was kind of 50-50, and that actually threw me off. I considered the possibility that, hey, maybe we're just going to blast right through, because that's interesting fuel for the market. But yeah, even with that, that is just one thing, right? Everything else in the chart, I'm always structure first, confluences after that. But yeah, now if we end up testing into those levels again, you know FOMO is going to build again as we trade towards resistance. Generally that's what happens. So I think that if we get that bounce towards 70k again, where would that top out? Around 68, 69k, I think we'll see that retail long number over 70% again, and just the absolute perfect storm for people to get shit on again, right? Just absolutely crush the moon boys in that case. But again, the market does not give a shit about my opinion. It can do anything. Just as it stands right now, I like to play the charts for the structure that's already there. I don't want to make up a theory in my head that, hey, I think this is going to happen and this structure is going to break, and in that case, I'll be right with doing whatever. I would rather see that, hey, this is day one stuff. If you're learning technical analysis, support, resistance, stuff like that, and it depends how you want to look at this, but either way, the end result is the same. Either we lost support here at the candle bodies, and we even closed below the wicks. So no matter how you look at it, there's a lower low on the weekly there. And that just, I could teach anybody on day one when reading charts, that would be a bearish signal. But the thing is that when it happens on a weekly chart, people are impatient. They don't want to wait for things to play out. I don't have it ready on my Twitter, but I know I posted about where I thought the bottom was here, and I think it was both me and Smallio were looking at the exact same level within like $10 or $15 and absolutely nailed it. So even though I was bearish because of this structure break, I understood the possibilities that, for one, I'm going to play the charts for how they are, and at the time on the 4 hour, there was a bullish signal there. So I switched my bias mid-term, but my target was always here. I always said that, you know, I think we're going back. Actually, it was the other one, the slightly smaller one. But I always thought that we would end up coming back to this fib pocket. And we absolutely did. And something else is just look how well it's respected. This is kind of the creepy part, is the candle bodies right up to the 786, the wicks right up to the 886. I can do the exact same type of thing here. When we lost these candle bodies here, we end up going to the downside a little bit. Where did we end up bouncing to? Let me just remove this to make it clear. And you can see basically candle bodies to the 786, candle wicks to the 886. So yeah, it's played out twice now. Looks like we are getting some kind of a reaction at this one here. So I'm just holding on to my bearish bias for now. I'm open to the idea of bullish things happening and bouncing and stuff like that. But honestly, I'm just favoring the downside. I'm playing the short side better than the long side right now. I just feel like I've been looking at it with a lot more clear head, just because on the longer time frame, I'm so set on that theory that when I start to see those patterns happening on a shorter time frame, that's when I'm starting to react, right? As I say at every stream, it's way more important to be able to react than predict anyways. And so I don't really give a shit what the market does. I'm just going to play it however it's thrown at me, basically. So basically my reasoning for getting into a short here was this was very micro analyzed. I will give it that. But basically we lost these candle bodies right here, right? We did close these candle bodies slightly above these ones. I was looking for just basically a quick scalp. But after getting that little bit of a break, another thing that I was looking at it was with the RSI, we had a pretty big divergence as we got that. So from slightly oversold there and just quite a big bearish divergence. So we're attacking that STUBER fib with significantly less strength. So at that point, I kind of decided, you know what, I was going to take a short. I actually took it closer to the 786, but then as we broke structure again, I ended up just adding a little bit to my position. I dropped my entry a little bit. But my stop loss isn't a profit. I've taken profits on the position, so I really don't care what happens at this point. But I mean, obviously I hope it goes to the downside. I would love to make more profits off this position, but there's no risk on the table at this point. The only risk would be losing a little bit of profits, I guess. Bringing up some of my favorite indicators here. The Trendmaster indicator, this is with my StuTube trading preset. Just some scalping settings that I use basically, and we do currently have the sell signal. Something to consider with that is I love to see which way these are trending, and unfortunately for my bearish bias here, that is a higher sell signal, and the buy signals still have an uptrend going. So eventually I would like to see this flip around where all of a sudden, hey, maybe now we'll set another buy, which yes, whatever it is, a higher buy. But then if we can get a lower sell, lower buy, lower sell, then that just kind of confirms that, hey, maybe the trend is starting to shift again. Same with auto charting tools. I've been absolutely loving using the auto charting tools for pulling my Fibonacci's. Absolutely amazing confluence, because I mean, back here, all the times we could have pulled random Fibonacci's. Notice there was no signals by that indicator, but as soon as we got up here, we set this higher high print and then pull a Fibonacci there, and yeah, right to that 786 and then reversal. Very powerful strategy. I actually mentioned it on my Twitter yesterday, I believe it was. Just look at how well it called the bottom of that range temporarily yesterday. So that anytime we set a lower high, I would just start pulling fibs and look for that pullback to that 786, 886 fib pocket down to my 214 target. Boom, absolutely pinpoint accurate there. And then we go again, just pulling a fib from this lower high signal once again, pulling down to where we bottomed at the time. Boom, we end up back in the 786, 886 fib pocket, target 214. Bam, hit that one as well. Here, same thing, lower high print. Pull the Fibonacci down to the lower low. We came right back up to those levels, not even close to my invalidation, and boom, target hit. So just very powerful. That's just adding my Fibonacci strategies to some of the indicators here, especially with this. I also had downward trending sell signals. So just a whole bunch of confluence yesterday that we were going to continue nuking basically. So yeah, that was an easy trend to play if you picked up some of these strategies. And obviously, it's not going to happen every time. It's not going to work out every time. But, you know, that's why this is such a beautiful trade setup, is because it's so structured, right? My invalidation is just, I leave a little wiggle room above my 115 because quite often that does get just hit. So I like to leave some wiggle room. But at least in that case, you know, laddering into the position on the way up, pulling my average entry up, and then invalidation's nice and tight. So even when it does lose, at least it's a controlled loss, because every trader, no matter how good your strategies are, you're always going to take losses. It's about how you manage those losses. So right now, okay, we got a higher low signal printed here. So, you know, if we start closing above this sell trend, I am going to close half of my remaining position. That's just kind of another way I like to use the indicators as well, guys, is don't always think of it as finding entries. Understand that there's so much more you can do with them. Risk management, taking profits, all that sort of thing, right? Honestly, that's more so how I use the indicators these days, is just looking for when to get out of positions or when I should consider to tighten up my risk a little bit and stuff like that. But and again, just which way they're trending. I am actually going to add my W's back as well, the reversal warnings. Those of you who are OGs around here and have been here for a couple of years, you'll know this is actually one of my first strategies I ever made with these indicators, was watching which way these W's are trending. Can really help you point out which way you should be trending or trading the market, right? I mean, since down here, W higher, 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 just a series of higher W's. So just looking for those pullbacks and basically buying along the buy trend. I mean, look how beautiful that trend was called out by this indicator. Absolutely amazing. Now, something to consider is we have W's starting to trend to the downside. So not saying it's necessarily time to randomly short right now kind of a thing. But something to consider is that, hey, if you are extremely bullish right now, there's potential that there's a bit of a shift in trend happening here. I want to see what happens with this candle yet. 40 seconds and I'll decide if I'm going to close half my position or not. Because if we get this, get a reversal warning like this, then I would actually end up setting a trigger order for half my position above the W. Still willing to basically take profits at these levels. Just, you know what? If that is an exact reversal and I can hold on to that extra half a position, then great. If not, whatever, I'll end up taking a little more profits. So I'm just going to get a position ready just in case this does print. I will set... yeah, so I'm going to set a trigger order. Oh, hopefully I get it in on time at, I'll do 177. It's got to be a close order. and we see what happens. Basically, we're either going to reverse right now or there's the potential we bounce. So I just want to make sure that I'm locking in a little profit. Since we did print this lower high signal down here and that reversal warning, although it is a lower one, it is still a warning, right? The TP on that Stuber specifically, that one already got hit. That's why I always take partial positions or partial profits very quickly, because I always play the range first and I hope for a breakout for the swing later, right? So yeah, unfortunately this is a small setup, but I was looking at it as more of a scalp. So basically entering around the 786 and that 214, that's why the 214 fib is there, is that is the opposite of the 786 basically. So yeah, if I'm playing a small range like that, yeah, I'm just starting to take profits and maybe tightening up my stop loss or just at least taking profits, just so that if nothing else, just downsizing my risk, paying my fees and that sort of thing. But then I leave most of my position running, right? Because I would be okay if it still got stopped out in that case. But that's just how I like to scalp. I like to play the range first. And yes, if it's a small Stuber fib pull that I do, then that's my own fault if the move isn't as big as I wanted it. But that being said, if it ends up absolutely dumping, basically my next target, because I got my range target, and I like to nibble on profits as I go, just because, I just like to make sure I pay myself and that sort of thing. But basically the next target I'm looking for, since we had the range target, then I just kind of zoom out and look at, well, where would the full swing Stuber be, right? So, I'm willing to ride this short down to these levels to get a retest of these fibs. But I don't want to bank on that scenario, basically, because, we have broke some important structure levels and we are possibly flipping this sell trend here on the 4 hour. So there's just a few reasons why I'm keeping my risk tight. But again, paying myself, but still willing to catch that home run if the pitch is thrown. I'm not banking on home runs, because if you're just really banking on home run trades, you're going to wreck yourself over and over, because like I said earlier, typically speaking, markets range and chop around more than they're trending. So I'm always entering a scalp first, and if it turns into a swing or a runner, then you know what, fantastic. But so I always love to leave at least half my position open, even if we break down past the range, kind of a thing. Yeah, so my half take profit order was hit. And you know what? I'm happy with that as well, because now we might technically, you can see it's not printing yet, but it's really trying to print a higher W here. So that would just be another little warning to me that it's potentially shifting to the upside. I got to catch up on some of these messages here, legends. I'm profitable since I know the Stuber's right on. I've got a lot of good feedback on those. And I think the main reason is it just keeps everything so structured. It makes sure that, hey, you are taking profits because the fib shows where you should. It just keeps your average or your entries more structured. It just helps a lot of people keep a level head, and myself included. Structure break, fib pullback. Pretty simple. Simple strategy for a simple guy. But once again, you guys, even though we broke some of the structure here, and I'm thinking that, hey, it's very possible we trend to the upside now. Notice I only closed half my position there, right? I still am open to the idea of just having a stop loss and just break even, basically. I'm still open to the idea of trying to catch a running position out of this, because if I am right on my longer time frame and this all gets invalidated and we just end up smashing to the downside tonight, overnight, let's say, I want to be open to that idea. I do have some take profit orders way down here just in case. I don't think they're going to get hit, but just in case I have those there, because if it happens while I'm sleeping or something like that, You know, the way I see it is if I would be willing to long this area, because again, it's the 786, 886 fib pocket. If I was willing to long this box, then if I'm in a short, I'm definitely willing to take profits, right? Because either way, all that's suggesting is this is a buy level. Whether it's a long or closing a short, it's a buy level. No, coming up to, so this is the 4 hour. I thought it looked different on a different chart. Maybe I was looking at something else. Either way, we're coming up to that sell trend on the 4 hour. Something that's interesting here, guys, actually, I was talking about which way these indicators are trending. We do technically have a lower sell signal on the 4 hour and a lower buy signal as well. W's are starting to trend to the downside. So just kind of looking at the indicators for some trends. If all of a sudden we set, especially, so, okay, here's an interesting theory here. Something to watch out for, you guys, is, let me just clean this up here. So I was talking about the possibility of, you know, since we got this structure break here, classic STUBER fib setup would mean that we go something like this. Something to add to that, something to watch for, since, you know, we did get this reversal warning here. The candles are flipping to a bright green here, so it's possible we do see a bounce. When we get to these levels here, watch to see if we end up getting a lower high W as well. That's one of my favorite things to watch for as well, because that's just added confluence right into the Fibonacci pockets that I love to watch. Especially after we already have a W and a lower low W. If I could see a lower high W, lower sell signals, lower buy signals, bearish structure breaks, 786, 886 fib pocket. That's just a trade setup that I love to take, and I would take it basically anytime I see it, unless there was some weird divergence going on or something like that. But that's another thing. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a bearish divergence form if we do get up to that level. We're going to have to see. Actually, that's interesting. Look at that bullish divergence we have right now. You can see the RSI has actually broken out a little bit. So, yeah, but like I said, it totally makes sense. You know, you sweep the lows, you get a pullback. That's just basic chart structure. Same thing I was warning everyone about with the weekly chart, right? Just sweep the lows, boom, and just do that retrace. Market structure generally works the same on the 1 minute, the 5 minute, the 1 hour, the 4 hour, the daily, the weekly. I treat it all the same. And if anything, I would say that the longer time frames actually play out a lot better, just because it takes a lot more money to try and change the momentum happening on a longer time frame. But a lot of people, like I said, crypto traders are very impatient. When they see something like this on a weekly, they just decide, nope, not a possibility. It's for some reason that TA knowledge goes straight out the window. And again, I'm happy to be invalidated. The thing is, if we start breaking these resistance levels and setting higher highs and higher lows, I'm gonna be a moon boy just like the next guy, just like I was for the last year and a half. That feeling will come back. I just don't see it yet is the problem. We have that structure break, that fib pullback, this diagonal resistance, 3 perfect touch points. The RSI, like I said, this beautiful divergence, just even the RSI is respecting resistance. There's just a lot of things potentially rejecting Bitcoin right now. But again, bounces are normal. Relief rallies, just like on an uptrend, you get those pullbacks. It's all the same, right? Pullbacks are natural. Yeah, damn near 68% retail long. The one thing I will say is this monthly chart does look good. I always notice it out of the corner of my eye when I come to the dashboard here, is that monthly does look good. You know, we're holding above the monthly candle bodies there. I can't deny that. So like I said, I'm happy to be invalidated. If all of a sudden the weekly chart breaks all-time highs, yep, you know what? Sure, higher high, great. So we did get that higher buy signal. But again, I literally have zero FOMO for longs right now. It's actually quite comfortable to just not have FOMO thinking that, hey, Bitcoin's going to hit $100,000 next week or something like that. It's actually pretty nice to be able to just chill and, again, I have invalidation levels. If I want to start spot buying aggressively again, if we break the highs, then whatever. Just consider it a small loss on the 15% of my spot portfolio that I sold damn near all-time highs. All I know, you guys, is that basically the same market structure that developed here that made me get extremely bearish with you guys on my stream right here. Basically, I remember this same setup happening last market cycle, and I saw it. I pointed it out. I ignored it, and I took a heavy loss. I lost a lot of money. I had a hard time trading my bias. I was still trying to long dips and stuff like that. Actually, I think it was this one I was more willing to trade the downside. It was this one. It was the initial 50% dump that we got at near the end of the market cycle. It was like 4 months before or something. But we had the same signal. We got this signal twice last market cycle. And just notice that those are very significant moves to the downside. It's that very specific RSI divergence, a little just losing weekly candle body structure, and those two things together just dumping off a cliff. And like I said, I saw this. I ignored it because I had too much hopium. I just felt like, nope, this market cycle is going to at least 100,000, so I refuse to accept the possibility that I might be wrong. And then that hurt. That little section there, and then next time I was more willing to look at it for what it is, because I've seen this pattern play out so many times. Yeah, sure, this was COVID, but again, we pulled back to the macro 786, 886 guys, and that's why in these streams I have discussed some targets that I personally don't even like talking about them, because I know that they trigger people. I know they sound ridiculous, and honestly, it is way too early to call some of those prices. But there's possibilities that we see some prices that nobody wants to talk about, because this signal with the RSI divergence and structure loss on the weekly has called some very, very significant pullbacks. So far, I think we've only dropped, since we got that signal, it's like 25%. So yeah, maybe, you know what, maybe that is all it had. Maybe it is just a quick 25% dump and then off to the upside from there. I just don't necessarily think it's over. Does anyone have any questions about how I look at structure or how I pull my STUBER fibs or anything? Honestly, since I've started using the auto charting tools with it, that's just such a good, such a nice life hack. Like even right now, I guess we could look at something like this. One thing to consider is this would be working against the trend because it's a higher high, not a lower high. I would really like to see a lower high signal get printed at some point and then be able to pull a new Fibonacci and basically wait for that 786, 886 fib pullback. Because like I said yesterday, it was just absolutely crushing the scalps. Yeah, other than that, I'm just going to kind of babysit this for the next 10 minutes or so. Let's just see what happens live here. How's everyone else feeling on the market? Is anyone exceptionally bullish, exceptionally bearish? You think there's going to go one direction and then the other relatively soon? Like, what's everyone feeling on the market? How far is this going so far? You know, trading with high leverage, that's actually not a bad scalp. Like I was saying, guys, that sometimes I just like to see which way these indicators are trending. So here's a perfect example. You know, W's were trending to the upside, but more so these buy signals. Like I said earlier, trending to the upside, higher buy signal, absolutely beautiful. Like when you can catch these reverse, like there's the odd time where it does that and then it is just ranging and then carries on to the downside. So, I mean, try to pay attention to if it seems like the market is just like kind of chopping around in a range. But when you can notice that these things change directions, it can be quite a warning. You know, higher buy signal, higher W signals, start buying along this buy trend. Just phenomenal entries there. I never did catch these. I was actually out of the house most of the day. But that is one strategy I like to use the indicators for. Notice we're... Or wait, that's not the 4 hours. The 4 hour I was looking for the lower W. Well, we got close to that that fib there. Not quite. I think we can go a little higher. Also, again, I don't know. I'm hesitant to take a short right now because that is a higher high signal. Yeah, fuck it. I'll start... wait, what's the RSI doing? I'll start a small... I'll start a small short again because I got stopped out of that one I was just in. I'm only going to start with a quarter of a position though because I think we'll go up a little bit higher. If we go up here, I'm going to consider adding the other 3/4. Just keep my risk tight because, again, with the higher trending buy signals, I'm kind of hesitant. Higher trending buy signals, higher trending sell signals, and a higher high print on the auto charting tools, higher low print. Yeah, I'm a little hesitant. It's more so just that, you know, it is still a fib pull off of one of these pivot points. It's just a little riskier, so I just want to make that clear. RSI is actually... A lot of people think that this would mean that the RSI is extremely overbought. It could mean that there's some strength there. I'm really hoping that there's basically a divergence prints out of this. I really think we'll at least fill that fib pocket, but being that there's so many things trending to the upside yet, I'm more so looking for double top territory to add to this. So it's a little shy of the 786, but again, I'm only starting with a very small position because it's higher risk, but I also want to keep things interesting here for us. And if this gets invalidated, we just start setting, you know, continuing the trend of higher signals, then whatever. That's where I start to more so look at the possibility of going up higher. Because that 4 hour looks good. I want to be careful while I'm trading the 1 minute here. Look at total on the 1 hour. Total, is that a coin? Or is that like a total market cap? Okay. I actually haven't looked at that in months. Ooh. Oh boy. I'm not gonna lie, that... Oh, that's the 1 minute. Whew. That looked bad. The 1 hour. That looks a little better. Nearing the 0.5 fib. Let me just remove a few things here. Something that I don't like about this chart is we actually lost this lower low, right? We broke that, so that's where I would start to look for some sort of a rejection up here. Basically just like Bitcoin, right? It does look like there's room for a bounce here, but something to consider is that lower low was taken out, just like this higher low was taken out. So to see some sort of a pullback towards those Fibonacci's, I think would make a lot of sense. You did say 1 hour, right? 1 hour, yeah. But you're looking from more for down here, I assume, like the bigger swing here. Yeah, we got very close to the 0.5. My thing is, like, although the 0.5 will often give a bounce, I find that it is usually just a bounce. And maybe that's just because I haven't watched it all too much, to be honest. But I almost feel like what I've noticed is after the 382 gets broken, is that it's almost... I always find that after the 382 gets broken, there might be some sort of a retrace. But then it seems like we go back to the 786 from there. Even the 618 maybe, but I find that even often if like the 618 is respected by candle bodies, I find there's still a wick to the 786. But just the fact that, can I bring up, do I have the... Let's bring them all up. 618. I thought I had a 382 somewhere. Get my colors. There we go. So yeah, we actually ended up dropping below the 382, and that just, it's actually funny. See, in a strong trend, so often the 382 is respected, and this is a perfect example there. But yeah, the fact that we actually swept that low has me concerned that I think we're gonna see a deeper retrace to these levels down here. And that would basically coincide with Bitcoin dropping to around 58,000 US dollars if it's going to line up with the same structure. What can we find for resistance? We're basically flirting with that 382 right now as far as resistance goes rather than support. You were thinking down to 2.18, 2.17 trillion. Let me just remap that out here. Yeah, so that would, yeah, well, yeah, right at the 0.5 you were thinking. Yeah, I personally think it's going to go a little bit further, but again, happy to be proven wrong. We'll obviously see what happens. Just the fact that we lost those since we have lower low. Yeah, I just have a feel that's just one of those structure breaks, right? We swept the lows and then to see us bounce, and we'll have to see what happens from there, right? All I know is that, as we trade up towards these levels, that's where it's time to be cautious because that's where then we're looking for resistance, right? Not to say it can't break out, just those levels, just at resistance as well as support. Those are just kind of your levels that you got to start being a little bit cautious at. So I see what you're saying. I just have a feeling that the bounce will be short-lived personally. Oops, I forgot about this guy already. I'm bad for that. Actually, you know what else I haven't looked at in a long time? Why? Oh, I was on crypto. Ha! I have not looked at the Dixie in a long time. Ooh. You might know what I'm about to say here, but guess what I see on the DXY? I know a lot of people were super bearish on the DXY as Bitcoin traded towards all-time highs, but really look what happened. And that's after a structure break, right? Because we had resistance here. We broke those levels. And then we get that retrace to that fib pocket. The one thing about this is obviously it's almost at the range target already. So maybe at that point, maybe it just reverses from there. But I think a lot of people were getting bearish on the Dixie when they should have been getting bullish because, again, people love getting bearish at support. Because a habit that a lot of traders have is that, people love playing breakouts. So as soon as that resistance was broken, as soon as it doesn't necessarily hold like this, people get extremely bearish and just assume that we're heading towards new lows when that's not necessarily true, because this was just a bullish confirmation that we broke structure to the upside. We did not break structure to the downside with this. Broken, not broken. That's interesting. Yeah, I haven't looked at the DXY in a long time. Let's see it on a longer. Let's look at some real long time frames. The daily, how's it looking? It does have this breakdown here, although on this trend here. So this would have been high, higher high, higher low. Well, we did break that level. So maybe it does something like that. What else? This is all just theoretical, guys. What's the weekly looking like? RSI is kind of in no man's land. We did get this bearish break, but we had a bullish break. Yeah, I don't know. I keep seeing this. That's on a weekly time frame. And guys, these fib pockets, I've actually pointed this out before. Where was it? I want to say it was right here. Yeah, there was about 20 years of price action on this chart right here. There's actually more. There's about 24 years, 25 years here. Look at this. Even where the DXY ended up getting rejected there. Can't make that shit up. So it's not just crypto, right? It's not just Bitcoin. And again, like I said, people love ignoring this type of a setup on a longer time frame. This is a monthly, and look, even the monthly is respecting that. Again, it's possible that's already played out, but it's just crazy how the first test into that 786, 886 fib pocket, once a move has happened, the first test so often gets some sort of a reaction there, and that's why I just love playing that setup. And I am more likely to take it only on the first test. The second time, it's kind of like, maybe at this point we're just tapping away at resistance, for example. But yeah, that's when I'm scalping shorter time frames, anyways. We might just be finding support on this buy trend. I'm tempted to close this. Whatever. Like I said, it started small. Let the degen blood flow. Let's see what happens. Yeah, what else? Anyone feeling the FOMO? Anyone think that we're going to break all-time highs right away? Don't get me wrong, I do think we're going to break all-time highs. I just don't think the time is now. What would make me very bullish on the market, actually, you guys, I want to talk about that side of things on the weekly chart. If we set, it really depends how structure forms. That's the thing. I can't tell you exactly how the structure is going to form. But the fact is that currently, even if we set a new lower low here, invalidation to that bearish theory would then be above this, because that would be my new lower high. But if we could get something where we set a lower low and then another lower low, but it's a nice tight consolidation like that, and I think I pointed this out at the beginning of the stream, but if we get something like that, so we set a low, a lower low, lower high, we break that, we come back, test a STUBER fib. Oh god, that's getting messy. Let me just erase a couple things. But yeah, basically we get something where we set lower low, lower low, we break that, come back to our fib pocket. That's where I would be extremely bullish if we got that type of a setup. There's obviously a lot of what ifs between now and then, but that's the kind of market structure that would totally change how I feel about this market right now. And yes, unfortunately on the weekly time frame, it's going to take a long time for that to play out if it does happen. The other theory is breaking all-time highs, basically, taking out the lower high. Those are basically the two options for me to turn bullish again. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. I probably should have waited for things to start trending to the downside again, but here we are. I mean, I guess at least I took that winner before, but we'll see what happens with this one anyways. I think if we test up here and get some sort of a swing fail or something, that's where I'll probably add the other 3/4 of my position. For now, just not super confident in it, so I'm just keeping a quarter position for now. And yeah, I don't know if we are going to, but yes, that is basically my target for this. Would be the range target would be around 65K. If I'm lucky enough to see it. That dashboard showing a little bullish. I've never actually like, I don't want to talk too much about that because I personally don't know how to read that because I don't use that. But I mean, it does look like things are getting a nice bounce. You got a couple things crossing. Yeah, wait for the bot to fire a buy signal and try and counter trade it. That could absolutely be a nice setup soon. Oh, you added all the totals together. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, your total 2, your total 3, and others. Okay, yeah, your Bitcoin dominance. Okay, yeah, I see what you're looking at. DXY. So 67.8% retail long. Yeah, like that's the market's heavy long. I mean, we can see higher. That's the thing. That's again, that's why I think that it's absolutely possible we do test higher. Because I mean, we've seen those numbers very recently above 70, 75. I think 76% market long was the highest that I noticed it the last time we were dumping, and everyone was trying desperately to FOMO long the bottom as we kept nuking to the downside. That's kind of what I'm expecting to happen again. Like, I guess the thing is, I mean, for one, if we attack that 70K area once again, everybody's going to get extremely bullish, right, in resistance again. Retail long will most likely be very high. And what's going to happen if we do actually get rejected again? How many more of these false hope pumps will the Moon Boys be able to take before it just absolutely gets hammered? You're in a long from the 65K retest. Oh, down here. Nice, nice, nice entry. I see what you did there. I don't know if this was intentional or not. But nailed that Stuber entry if you did. Basically, the way I see a play like that, I would consider taking profits just because, well, not all profits. Remember, I almost never close an entire position. But basically, you've reached my range target, right? So in that kind of a setup, I'm looking to enter in this box here, and I'm looking to start taking profits here. I never did take the long there, but that's kind of how I would be looking at it. I myself, I close half my position when I hit my range target usually. Unless I'm very confident in a position, then sometimes I'll only close a quarter of it. But generally speaking, by the time I break out of a range, usually I only have half a position left trying to catch that. You know what? I am actually interested. This is interesting. Look at this divergence that's forming on the RSI. That's an interesting setup. That's an again, everyone takes losses, but it's important to have those losses be controlled, right? And that's why we have our invalidation levels. I personally like to leave a looser stop than that. But this is basically the only thing I don't like. We still don't have a lower high signal, right? I'd feel much better about this if we did have that sort of something trending to the downside or lower sell signals or something like that. I'd feel a lot better on this, but it is nice to see that we pulled back to 786, 886 fib pocket and we got that RSI divergence. Not all the boxes are checked, but there's a couple bearish signs starting to form here. Some big sells showing up. Yeah, there's quite a bit of selling starting to show up. Solana, 5 minutes, 15 minutes. I can check that out. No. My cat is getting quite pissy, so hopefully she's not screaming over me. Let's look at the 5 minute first. The first thing I notice is we are getting near resistance, so just be a little bit cautious. Basically, and using the auto charting tools to kind of help with that is here's our lower low, and our previous pivot before that point was right here. So if I pull a Fibonacci, just notice where we're trading right now. So it looks good, the fact that we haven't really lost a higher low or anything yet. Like really, as long as we're holding these levels type of thing. Just understand that we are starting to trade into resistance, right? 15 will probably look very similar. Yeah, I'd look at it the exact same. Yeah, you can see as soon as we broke this structure, hey, on this downtrend. Ooh, look at that actually, where I pulled the fib from. On the 15, it's actually a lower high there. That's... Yeah, I'm not trading altcoins near as much as I'm trading Bitcoin, but that is a bit of a red flag to me. That this has been quite accurate on the 15 minute if we look at it. And this is, guys, this is what I was talking about, how using these this indicator with the Fibonacci's can be so powerful, is I can just tell you from an eyeball. Look at this. Go from this lower high signal, pull our fibs. Look, if you enter around the STUBER fib, boom, close half your position at the range target, and then boom, just nibbling profits from there. So absolutely beautiful trade setup there. And as well, on top of that, I can just pull another one right here, and I'm pretty sure that one got hit too, right? Lower high signal, just chase the price with the fibs. Boom, pulls into that target, nice tight invalidation, wasn't even close to hitting, and boom, nuke to the downside. So it's almost life hack, right? Right now, that's exactly where it looks like it's trying to reject. So even if these trade setups don't work out, guys, and that's one thing I want to be clear about, because every trade setup does fail sometimes. That's why we got to keep our losses controlled. That's why we have invalidation levels and stuff. But the main thing to take in here is that notice that how often there's at least some kind of a reaction, right? It's obviously a level of interest. And I see it time and time again that we just print those signals. We get the pullback to the 786, 886. Did I say anything bearish yet? No, not a thing. You know me, full on moon boy these days. But no, I honestly, if you did just get here, I do see reason for higher prices. I do think it's absolutely possible we jump to 68, 69K just for another classic Stuber fib setup on the 4 hour. Lost our higher low structure, and it would make perfect sense to just retest that 786, 886 because that's just a typical Stuber setup. I don't care what time frame it is. So yeah, absolutely possible that we go to the upside a little bit. Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting Solana chart. Look how well those pivot points worked out. I know they're a lagging indicator, so it's not like it printed the higher low right when that candle printed or anything like that. But even here, did this one get respected? Even this higher high reversal, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, look at that. It's right to the 786 and then nuke. Crazy. Crazy how well these work. See them everywhere. Like I said, once you see them, you don't unsee them. You just start to see them everywhere. I'll just load my Bitcoin chart back up. Yeah, look at that. Beautiful. Took TP at 65.5. Did you close the whole thing then? Just curious. Did you just nibble profits kind of like I do, or did you close the whole thing? Yeah, cause you've been pointing out some great Stuber fibs lately too, by the way. You've pointed out a couple that I totally just skimmed over or missed or wasn't looking or whatever, and I look at them and it's, yeah, there's a nice setup there. So you're definitely catching on. Love to see that you're paying attention in all these streams. I guess I should have added to my position at the 886, shouldn't I have? Oh darn. That's okay though. Like I said to you guys, I was using the indicators for a little risk management. So even though, yeah, I could have ended up with a little more profit here, I'm going to update my stop loss to just a small profit just to pay my fees basically at this point, just because kind of scared myself there with all the indicators trending to the upside there. I do want to be cautious because we still do have that, right? We still have W's trending to the upside. Printed another higher W. Even though it wasn't perfect reversal, it's really not invalidated till we lose the higher W structure. And again, the higher high, the higher low, the higher sell signals, the higher buy signals. I just want to limit my risk right now. I am totally open to the idea to catching a massive short, but I just think that there is possibility we go a little higher, so I'm just keeping my risk tight. Full TP, nice, it worked out. Looking to buy 65 again, like where we're getting to very quickly here. Yeah, that's the thing. Hey, like I myself haven't been that interested in long in the market for a while here. But yeah, I can totally see reasons why you would at this level, you know, pull a fib like this, Notice that's right around 65K, right? And I know I've pointed this out many times, but basically that's why I have the 214 fib on my target, is because it's basically the opposite 786, right? You see it just front running here. What's the RSI doing? Still has a little room. There we go. Stop loss and a small profit. Basically pay the fees, but there is a chance I get wicked out on that too. But if I do, I just want to try and get a better entry. But yeah, basically hoping that this trend, which hopefully will flip to a lower sell signal relatively soon, and then hopefully that'll provide a little bit of resistance for me. But if I see the RSI do some sort of a bullish divergence or something like that, I'll definitely be closing. Well, I'll be closing early, but if not, I'm closing half my position here anyways. Come on, one more push. And also, as I always talk about, it's important to be able to react rather than just predict. If I am scalping like this and I am looking for reasons to close part of my position, basically, if we end up breaking some sort of structure, I'll end up closing half of it early. Like, let's say for let's just say, well, right now at this point it would be something like that would be our lower high on this very immediate trend here. If we got a candle body above that, if I happen to catch it, I'm going to close half my position quickly just to try and lock in a little bit of profits, because at that point we might be changing to the upside and getting a full-on reversal here back up to these levels, in which case I just want to make sure I at least pay my fees and shit, right? Or like now, if we set a slightly lower low here, then I can drop my lower high. I would love it if it did that, because that would be just like what I was talking about on the weekly early, right? As far as invalidating my ideas and seeing a lower low, and then breaking the lower high, I'd be extremely bullish. Just like right here, if we get something like that, I'll be looking to downsize my position. So if we get something like this, and then we have our lower high, and then break it. But as it stands right now, that's not my confirmed lower high until we actually break down below it. $65,069 for the culture. I like it. Getting a slight bullish divergence on the RSI, but that's another slightly higher sell signal. Um, Lord Drake, let me just check out your 15-minute chart there. And yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking at. Pulled from that lower high signal down to the lower low signal. And then you can see it's struggling with resistance right at the 786, 886 there. And yeah, so the 0.214, that's basically my range target. So that's where I generally speaking, I close half my position there. Just because if it reverses and I'm wrong on things and it's not going to continue, whatever, I always like to play the range first. And if that's where my fibs are set, that means that's the range I'm playing, right? So those fibs really help me recognize what range I'm actually playing. If I'm entering in that range, I should be taking some profits in that range. Because, like I said, it kind of at the start of the stream, the market loves to range and chop around sideways way more than it's actually trending or breaking out, right? Usually it's chopping around sideways in some sort of a range. So that's where I like to start taking profits. Because if you're always looking for home run trades, you're just going to get wrecked. Oh, see, so here's where I can do this, right? We got a very, very slightly lower low, and it looks like it's going to reverse a little early here, honestly. But basically, if we get a candle body close above this red line, that's I'm going to close half my position early. And then I'll remove this take profit down here if that happens. No, did you hit your 69? I think you did. It is absolutely possible to hit a home run trade and not get wrecked. I guess that depends if you're a swing trader or a scalper, right? Yeah, you can hit some real nice, what we'll consider a home run trade if you're looking for a swing, because yeah, it's a nice big move. It's just that if you're playing the 1 minute chart like I am and you're expecting the position to run for days, it's just not realistic, right? It totally depends what time frame you're playing. If you're playing a 4 hour, yeah, absolutely, you know, that can run for a few days or longer, obviously, and you're going to get those bigger swings, those bigger ranges. But yeah, basically, if I'm, well, like I said earlier, if I pull a Fibonacci, that means that is the range I'm playing, and I just want to make sure I'm paying myself something in that range, or at the very least updating stop losses and just removing risk. If we, you know what, I think I'm closing half my position. Yep. Quick little 24% profit there. Well, half of that, so 12% technically. Would I ever keep a position open for an entire cycle? Let's say I long BTC at 15 to 20K. I would consider it. I've never had that happen. Last cycle, I got very close. I ended up, what was it? Let me go to the chart I'm looking for here. Actually, the reason, this is actually kind of funny. Let me change things here. I'm removing my drawings. I am going to I think it was the regular chart. The reason, you guys, that I started my YouTube channel was because I saw this chart pattern that nobody else was talking about at the time. Pretty funny because it's obviously very noticeable in hindsight. But basically, I was looking at an absolutely perfect looking pennant. And the reason why I was so mega bullish on this was because it had at least 3 exact touch points, right? So we got our 1, 2, and 3 breakout. I remember everyone getting very bullish. Everyone got very bearish here. And basically, when I saw this coiling up, it was actually just before COVID, but I did see this pattern coiling up already. And that's basically what led me to make my YouTube channel. I was just like, I don't think a lot of people are seeing this yet. And I think there's a very big move that's about to happen. So I was actually targeting 28K, I think it was. How was it? I believe it was something like so. And I was targeting, yeah, it was right around 28K. Obviously blew way past that. But yeah, I definitely didn't have like a juicy long open the entire market cycle. Like I think it was Crypto had one open for freaking months. So I don't know. Me personally, I'm too much of a scalper. I'm always adding and removing from my positions and stuff. Although now I have so many accounts that I would consider, if I got into one that I thought the position was going to run for a long time, I would consider just trading on a different account for a good while and just let it run. It really depends how it plays out. I'd consider it if it worked out. Also got to consider fees and that sort of thing, because I think generally you're getting hit with fees every 8 hours or something. So as long as it's moving in your favor, then sure. But if it chops around too much or anything like that, I mean, those can start to eat you. Scaled into a long. Nice, nice. I'm not willing to long it. I'm a little bitch. I just feel like I don't know. I can't shake my bearish feeling. I'll take the odd long scalp, but right now I'm just not feeling it. I'd rather just wait it out, to be honest. Unless there's something real obvious. Like one that I would consider playing if we got it would be like, looking for a real big one. Like, oh boy, something like this. If we get back down near those levels, especially after that we broke this resistance back here, I would consider playing it down here. And that's totally reasonable, right? If we look at the 4 hour, the fact that we broke this little bit of structure here, a pullback to support would be totally normal. To pull back to the 786, 886. Like I said, I look for this on every single time frame. FOMOing into breakouts is, yeah, it works out sometimes, but generally speaking, pullbacks are totally normal. And that's why I maintained my bearish bias after we got this very basic structure break on the weekly. Can't stay awake for 24 hours. Oh, come on. Fair enough. Like I said, once you start to see them, you see them everywhere, right? Got our structure break, get our fib pullback, and our target's obviously very close because that's a very small range. So it might not be worth it because if you take a loss with the fees and everything, but I think you're more so looking at this. You're more so looking at the structure of this high or low. I think it's possible we come back a little bit deeper here, even if it is going to play out bullishly, but just that there was these warning signs here. That's why I got out of half my position early. But that just goes to show you the power of the STUBER fibs, especially mixed with the auto charting tools. I think that's such a life hack. Oh yeah, here we go. That looks nice. That's what I want to see. The fact that even though we were playing against the trend, we had higher buys, higher sells, higher highs, higher lows, that STUBER setup still did play out. Yes, it hasn't quite reached this range target, but I'm considering a win because that was a nice move to the downside. A very obvious reaction at this level. And now, since we got this new signal here, this is where I can start looking for something like this. I will absolutely short this if I see it. I should probably just set orders right now, honestly. Not financial advice. Do your own research, form your own opinions. And that's the thing, guys, right? Like I said a few times on this video already, like every trade setup does lose trades. That's the thing, right? I might be completely wrong on this weekly chart. Maybe that's all the move that we had. That's totally fine. The range did play out. That's totally fine. I don't care if I get invalidated. That's just another trade setup or another theory invalidated. I'm not in a trade based on this anyways. I'm trading shorter time frames. But that's just, you know, that's the thing. This can get invalidated at any time, just like any shorter time frame can. I'm not interested in taking this long, but again, there's just a possibility we are pulling back a little further. Stu's the most humble of fellas. Hard not to like this guy. Oh shucks. Yeah, and that's that. I don't want to. Obviously, like I'm poking fun and we're like having fun in the chat and having disagreements about what's happening. And honestly, guys, that's good. You don't want to be filled with echo chamber nonsense. Like I love the fact, Moon Lambo, the fact that, you know, we challenge each other's opinions so much. Like it really does help when you have somebody questioning your ideas, as long as you can still, you know, well, and the thing is, like, we can have, you know, you can be totally bullish, I can be totally bearish. All that matters is the execution of the trades, right? So the predictions don't matter at the end of the day. Reacting over predicting any day. But it's always good. I like having people keep me on my toes. Absolutely. How often do I trade, and when I do, am I staring at the charts for hours? Honestly, it depends. A good way to do it, in my opinion, is setting alerts. Like if I don't want to be absolutely glued to the chart right now, I could just do something like so. Hey, this is kind of what I'm watching. Hey, add an alert. And then my phone will let me know if we get up to these levels, for example. So alerts are good. And as well, I usually have 3 monitors on the go, plus other devices. So usually if I am trading the 1 minute, there's a good chance that I am like watching YouTube on one screen, playing video games on one screen, and have the 1 minute chart on one screen, and I'm trading on my phone or whatever. So I don't overly get bored while I'm looking at charts. I think just because, you know, I'm looking at them, but I'm doing a bunch of other things as well. But also, you know, there's times I'm out kiteboarding or whatever, and I'm just having a beer between runs and pick up the chart once in a while. And, hey, if I can set a trade and go out and hopefully make money, sometimes take a loss while you're out having fun. I mean, that's all part of the game. But I think the thing is too, like when you have traded a lot and you've stared at a lot of charts, you can kind of, you can predict it to a point where, like, you know, important levels, right? I mean, as we were dumping down here, then I can very quickly look at a chart, be like, you know, just like I showed earlier this video, hey, I'm pulling this fib, and then we see what happens. And chances are you can step away for a while. If you're worried about it, set an alert, right? All depends on the person. Honestly, trading the 1 minute is not for everybody. And I say this all the time, that it can be very bad. Trading shorter time frames like this, I mean, you can overtrade, revenge trade, over leverage yourself, all that sort of, you know, all those bad habits we're supposed to avoid as traders. Just understand that that can be a thing. So just make sure you know what works for you. Do your own back testing. Find out what you actually catch, because there's a chance that, you know, I see these fibs all the time. I see them everywhere I look, but there's a chance that maybe you don't see them the same, or you are misunderstanding something about the way I'm looking at it, right? So it's always important before trading actual money behind one of your theories that you go back and back test it, find out how it lines up, and you're able to find it basically. My stop loss, I usually leave it just like I have my 115 fib and it's red. That's my invalidation fib basically. I usually leave some wiggle room beyond that. I would actually consider tightening it up a little bit in this kind of a setup just because this is our lower high. So if we break that, there's possibly a trend shift. Whereas here, since it was a higher high, I'm still looking for that, there's potentially a liquidity grab to the upside. If this lower high structure is going to continue, I'd actually really like to see this pocket reject us, maybe get to double top, but I don't really want to see us above that. I'd still probably go a little bit past this though, honestly. I just like to keep a little bit of wiggle room for a stop loss. It depends how much leverage you're using and so on, but there's just, there's always the chance that we end up getting some sort of just fake out just above these levels, and then it carries on in your favor, right? And then you think, oh, I hate this. I'm never using a stop loss again because it keeps just hitting me. Then it's probably just too tight is all right. But that's why I have that fib there. Again, my fibs just help keep me so structured. They just remind me that, hey, there's a take profit in mind, there's entries in mind, and there's invalidation in mind. I usually front run things like on the entries and the take profits. I usually front run them a little bit. And on the invalidation, I usually leave a little extra wiggle room. So that's kind of just me personally, but to each their own, right? Find out what works for you, but that's just kind of what I do. We probably hit this fib, hey? Yeah. See, and again, guys, that's the thing. These fibs happen so often. It's just like 786 to 786 to 786 to 786. And also understand, like in this type of a setup, right? That does not mean that my risk reward would be something. And like every setup's going to be different based on how structure works. But for example, if I have my setup something like this, and obviously I'm actually hoping to get a much bigger move, but this isn't going to be my average entry if I'm stopped out, right? Because I ladder into my positions heavier towards my invalidation levels, so it would end up being something more like 3-1. Doesn't always happen that I end up getting all my entries either, right? That's just a part of it. But I like to ladder in closer. And I mean, well, this position I'm in, I mean, as I talked about it before I took it, that I only entered with a quarter of my position because I was looking at adding into my position the other 3/4 of it if we ended up getting up higher. And I actually ended up not taking it because I was looking more for the double top territory. And we never quite got there for a swing fail or anything, but whatever. It is what it is. I didn't have a ton of confidence on it, so I didn't want to get stupid with my risk, right? But yeah, understand that usually I'm never an all or nothing kind of a trader, right? When I take profits on a position, I hate closing an entire position because there's a chance that it runs way further than you think it will. And those positions can be great to get into. And from there, you can start hedging positions and that sort of thing. But I love laddering into positions and I love laddering out of positions. It just helps you keep such a level head because then you're not in a panic to find a new position. Your loss is going to be lessened, softened if you're bringing your average entry closer to your invalidation, right? Not to be mistaken for doubling or tripling down on your position, but having a position in mind and breaking it up from there. How long did it take to develop Stuber vision? Like these trade setups, the Stuber Fib setups, or my YouTube channel? Define Stuber vision. my scalp strategy. Oh, bro, it's ongoing. Like I've just recently added these auto charting tool pivot points into it. For, like that was actually fairly recently. I know Jay, I don't know if he's in here. Captain Pumpy, I know he did that video on the auto charting tools. I had a little section in it where I talked about that because it's just something. It was a strategy that I was mostly just talking to him about. We've had many private conversations and stuff. And we just have fired back strategies back and forth, and that was one that came up. I started noticing it. As far as just the Stuber fibs, the 786, 886 after a structure break, that's been something, I don't know, it's probably, I've been looking at that quite a bit for probably a year or so. I've been looking at the 786, 886 fib pocket for probably a couple of years, more so than the 618 fib, but with that structure break as well as confluence that, you know, it's going to be potentially carrying on a trend kind of a thing. That was mostly just in the last year or so. And then, yeah, like I said, though, there's always things I'm adding to it, like, or just things that'll make me take a heavier position, like the auto charting tools lining up with it, big RSI divergence lining up with it, sell signals trending to the downside, or if I'm playing the upside, buy signals are trending to the upside. Like all those things are just kind of checking boxes, and the more confluence I have in a position, the heavier I'm going to trade it. Just like up here when everything was kind of, there was a lot of things trending against this setup, I kept my position very light, right? So it's ongoing. We're all students of this market. None of us know exactly what's going to happen. We just do our best. We're all in this together. Yeah, I really want to see that play out. That being said, I'm going to update my stop loss on the current position, and I'll re-enter if we end up bouncing towards that level. How long did it take to become profitable in it? Honestly, that's hard to say because it has just been kind of in development forever. I haven't journaled how often it plays out because I don't know. I feel like after you've traded a lot and you kind of have your strategies that you work on, like I don't know. Actually, maybe it's bad practice for me to not really journal trades anymore. But that being said, these videos I do kind of I guess these videos, these streams, my YouTube channel, it's all basically a trading journal, talking through my emotions. It really helps it stick in my head. But yeah, I don't know how long until I kind of developed this fib strategy. I think kind of as soon as I started noticing it, I started playing it, and it was profitable, I guess. Actually, you probably weren't here yet, but even yesterday, I don't know if you would have seen it in the Discord, but I posted this, that even as we started trading sideways, just look at how beautiful this strategy ended up working, that we would get our lower high. I'd pull a Fibonacci down to wherever. I would just chase the price with it and wait for us to pull back to the 786, 886. Boom, there's our entry. Boom, there's our 214 target, right? From there, we have a new lower high signal right here in the white circles. Chase the fib, or chase the price with the fib, pull back to the 786, 886, down to the 214 target. Same thing. This one we never ended up pulling back up high enough. But then we got another one here, lower high signal, pull the Fibonacci chasing the price, pull back to that 786, 886, 214. So, and like I said, I've been using this more and more with the auto charting tools because it just seems like there's so much additional power behind the confluence of that indicator, because it's, I don't know exactly how those signals come up, but I think it has to do with like not only structure, but also volume and stuff like that. I could be wrong on that. But there's just so much additional confluence with that it's kind of a life hack, right? If this ends up getting invalidated, then yeah, whatever. All of a sudden the lower high is taken out, then at that point consider looking for bullish ones, right? But when the market's trending like this, just every signal that it printed, I just started looking for that fib pullback and got 3 of them in this small range here on the 1 minute. Very powerful. What are the top 3 things that I incorporate into my strategy that make me a profitable trader? The top 3 things that I look for right now in these strategies is it would be 1, the structure break, right? Back here, even though, like I said, even when I was started this video, this was a very, well, this was actually this was a trade I took at the beginning, right before I started my stream, and then this other one down here. But basically I look for a structure break followed by that Fibonacci pullback, and third, I guess, would be these pivot points lately. I've been really liking those. But as well, I want to add a 4th one into that, would be that RSI divergence, because that's actually what I pointed out too as we started testing this bearish fib here. I had pointed out that we got that RSI divergence, right? And that's kind of that's a big one for me. That's where I'm looking at it as a potential full-on reversal. Obviously this is the 1 minute, so take it for what it is, but I truly believe that's a big reason why this is going past the range target, and that's why I was incredibly bearish on the weekly chart for so long, right? Let me just reload this so that I have everything up. Just the fact that, so if I'm looking for my key entry points here, for when I initially got bearish on this trend, was, for one, we lost these candle bodies as support. I know it's quite messy because there's wicks here. Sometimes I'll take the wicks off my chart just to make it a lot clearer, but we lost these candle bodies as support. So that's number 1, right? Number 2, we end up getting that pullback. So I pull my Fibonacci from our current highs down to wherever the bounce bottoms out. This is where it bottoms out. Where do we bounce to? There's our Fibonacci pocket. So this is sign number 1. This is number 2. And this RSI divergence is number 3. So we basically got it right here. So as far as a reversal pattern, I would say those are my 3 checkpoints for a beautiful entry that I would take every time, whether it's, and I have lost trades with that. I want to be clear about that. There's nothing saying this had to play out. It could have been invalidated. But when I'm trading the 1 minute or the 5 minute or the 1 hour, basically those 3 things lining up together, I take that trade every time I see it. So then, just to show you again, so that's the first setup here, right? We had our structure break, our fib pullback, our RSI divergence. Then what happens from there? We get a structure break. We lose our candle bodies again. That's checkpoint number 1. Number 2 is we get our Fibonacci pullback once again, and we have an even deeper RSI divergence, just even less strength in the RSI, right? So that signal has actually played out twice already in this range here. Yeah, Jay, I've been loving some of the charts you've been sharing. You've just been absolutely crushing it, dude. Yeah, I feel like things really changed. There was one day I actually had a bit of a flu, I think, and I was just sitting here posting things on the 1 minute all day, and all of a sudden I see that you started nailing those STUBER fibs. So that's why I always like to show them, you guys. I can't always show them ahead of time, especially when I'm trading the 1 minute and stuff, because honestly, by the time I take the trade, I take a screenshot, I explain to you what I'm seeing, I share it. I get my stop losses set and all that sort of shit. There's a good chance that that trade is come and gone and someone's going to take it late and get wrecked or something like that. So quite often it's hard, like the 1 minute, it's hard enough to react to the 1 minute on time, but to actually share what you're doing on the 1 minute is actually quite challenging unless it's in a video like this, because I can talk while I'm doing it. Yeah, other than that, I still think it's important to show them as they play out, because the more you see that structure and the more you see that setup, just the more you're going to catch it on your own. And I was saying earlier, Cause is a perfect example, as she's been pointing them out now as well. She's been in some of these streams. I've been pointing out a million of these things, and she's been absolutely crushing those as well. So I love to see that you guys are, you know, just able to use something that I teach here as just something to add to your confluence, right? Everyone trades the markets different. We could have the same trend lines, the same indicators, same everything, and we would trade the market completely different. So if you already have strategies that work for you, by all means, don't necessarily change everything you're doing, but just, you know, just another thing in the quiver to consider when you're taking trades, whether it's just something to watch for as far as risk management. It doesn't have to be entries, right? Like I was talking about, I use the indicators for several different things. Entries is one of them, but I also like to use the indicators as risk management. Just, you know, like if we all of a sudden break this sell trend, actually on this case, because I am really hoping we see well, actually, I'm pretty sure we're going to see a lower sell signal come into play soon. Obviously, I would like to see a lower buy followed by a lower sell. That would just be additional confluence that maybe the trend is carrying on to the downside. But yeah, not everything in charting needs to be about finding entries, right? Because the hardest thing to do in trading is not finding a profitable entry. It's actually taking profit on that entry. So that's where I find that indicators can really help as well. Is just, you know, when I should be considering taking some profits, downsizing my position, anything like that, right? Yeah, the 1 minute became a lot more fun when you could have a structured mindset to it, eh? It can be pretty stressful if you don't have structured trade setups in mind. Oh, you took a small loss on that scalp. And you know what? That's a part of it, right? That's a part of trading. It's all about a controlled loss. If anyone tells you they don't lose trades, they're fucking lying to you. So even just to kind of try and maximize on my profits, because I'm really still interested in getting a bounce up to these fibs now that we have lower high signals starting to print here. I would love to see a bounce here. But if we do get that, I want to make sure that I do lock in some more profits on my position. So just to use this indicator, for example, is, you know, this is where we're supposed to be starting to find resistance. If we do bounce to this indicator here, I'm just going to have my stop loss with a little wiggle room, just something like that on the rest of my position, so that I can just lock in here. What should I set it at? I'll just set my stop loss there just so that I make sure that I remember to pay myself a little bit, and then I would love to get into that entry at those higher fibs. I would love to get in there. Currently at a 58% profit on this guy. Again, it was only a quarter of the position that I intended to get, but I'll take it. This market volatility lately has been just awesome, you guys. How do you guys feel about it? Maybe I'm an anomaly. I don't know. I don't care which way the market trends. I just want to be trading volatility. There's nothing worse than a boring sideways small range. Small range trading. Um, I just love that it's volatile. I know it can play with people's emotions because when the ranges get big like this, big and volatile, it can feel like all-time highs and then it feels like going to zero. Then it feels like all-time highs, then it feels like zeros. But it's really just a big range, right? Um, yeah, will we end up just dumping? And that's the thing, right, guys? Once again, this 4 hour chart actually still looks fairly bullish to me right now. Just the fact that we could go a little bit higher just because we did end up breaking this level. But again, remember, it's totally normal to end up getting a pullback. If I can just do a quick eyeball, that's probably a Stuber fib right there. There it is. So you can tell that I've seen them once or twice. What I really probably don't need to use fibs anymore. It's just obviously for screen sharing and everything. It's obviously nicer, and it is just nice to have them there to remind yourself. But really, I can eyeball them pretty much now. Once you see them everywhere. But yeah, a pullback, that would be totally normal. And if we get some sort of bullish RSI divergence, let's say something like that, as the price does something like that, I mean, yeah, I would consider playing a long setup and targeting some of these higher areas. Like I said, I'm bearish on the trend, but I will still play it for how I see it. Maybe I'm very robotic. I don't know. I could not care less about which way this market trends right now. I literally have zero FOMO over it. I have zero attachment to the bearish side other than the fact that I think that is what's going to happen. I think we're going to go a lot lower than a lot of people want to even consider. But that doesn't have to happen. And if it doesn't have to happen, whatever. As long as the market stays volatile, I'll be happy. Macro cycle predictions. Well, my macro cycle prediction is what nobody wants to hear. Because on this Stuber setup, this is my range target, and this is my swing target. Not many people want to see that, but honestly, that's kind of the macro cycle that I'm looking at. I don't think it'll necessarily take that path either, right? Like, I think it's very possible we do one of these and then come down. Like, it might take a long time, right? This is a weekly chart, so if we do get to my targets, and again, I don't think it's probable, I just think it's possible. There's a difference, right? You just have to be ready for anything in these market cycles because B and I have been through a couple market cycles. It You remember certain things that you never thought were possible, and then they happened. And this would be one of those things that just might take a long time to play out. And again, if the chart structure changes, then at that point I'm getting bullish again. But just as it stands right now, this is just what the market structure is currently saying. That market structure changes all the frickin' time. But here's a perfect example. Last time this exact same chart setup played out with the RSI losing a support level. actually, even, where did we end up pulling back to? I don't know if we ever got it. No, we never actually did get a Stuber fib pullback, unless you consider that immediate one, which that's a stretch. But either way, even since this RSI signal, here I just want to pull this back up. Just going from this RSI signal being, that's kind of the main thing with my reversal strategy. Just because what I want to make clear about this, and I know some of you guys heard this at the start of my video, but just for those of you who weren't here, my reasoning for being so bearish on this exact RSI divergence is just because we're trading at the same level of resistance with significantly less strength. That's what this is showing, right? We go from overextended, which is actually just a lot of strength, right? Because it's a relative strength index. Everyone likes to say that's overbought. That's every bull market ever has been overbought. Usually the market cycle doesn't go parabolic until it's overbought. It's more so that exact divergence with losing structure that it can call a very significant pullback. And if we go to this one here that happened, how long did it take till we got to those targets and bottomed out? That was 32 weeks. It was over half a year. So, you know, if that is to play out again, not saying it has to, but if we do get to these targets down here, that might be 6 months away. Just something to consider there, right? My theory of what happens after we reach these targets, again, if we reach those targets, I have a hard time saying it. It's so early that I hate making targets like this. It's just that if this was a shorter time frame, I'd be looking at my range target and my swing target, and I shouldn't treat the weekly any different. It just feels unrealistic at this time because that's going to be months away if it does happen. But if that does happen, though, I would expect a very serious recovery, honestly. That's where I don't want to sound too bearish with this theory if it does happen, because I think who knows how it's going to get there, right? This is all just theoretical. Do not hold me to this path. But I could see something like this happening where it basically shoots up very quickly. And this is where we have to pay attention to wherever, and this is really going to depend how market structure forms on the way, but let's just say theoretically this is how it happens, and this ends up being our lower high on the trend. After we break that level, if we start consolidating on top of that level, something like that, it really depends how we approach this level, right? Because if this is our lower high, if we come up here and just start consolidating below it, I'm going to consider the possibility that, hey, we're struggling at resistance. Whereas if we get above it and consolidate on top, I'm going to feel like, hey, we're flipping this resistance into support. So it's not so much just the levels we hit, but also how we approach them, how we consolidate and stuff like that. And that's kind of why, you know, I know a lot of people thought that this weekly candle last week was quite bullish because it was kind of a bullish hammer. But what you have to consider is, on top of not just single candle analysis, but look where this happened, right? It happened right at the 786 resistance. That's why I just could not bring myself to be bullish yet. And then to see us test the 886 absolutely perfectly. I mean, that just, as soon as I saw us rejecting off there, it just seemed like, oh, well, this is it. We're going to see a big reaction here. Again, whether that already played out or not, we'll see. But that just kind of goes to explain how it really depends how we approach certain levels, right? A lot of people think consolidation after an uptrend is like, no matter what, that's just kind of, oh, that's bullish. And to be fair, yes, it's nice that we're just tapping away at that resistance, but not really bullish until we flip that resistance into support. That's when I'm going to get mega bullish. So I don't know. I personally think, like, if we start dropping some of these levels, like let's just say this range down here, again, all very theoretical, but let's just say the price does take the big nasty, we lose this level, I will be setting limit orders at these fibs, because I don't think it's going to necessarily last long at those prices if it does happen. So as soon as I see that we're losing this range, I am going to be setting orders. I'll probably just set a whole bunch in this box, honestly, because it's going to be very easy to, and here's another thing to consider, right? If we do trade down to these levels, understand that there's going to be something in the media that's being really hyped up as far as something that the markets may never recover from, and Bitcoin's dead again for the 5 millionth time and all that kind of stuff. There's going to be something in the media that seems scary if we get to these levels, and it's going to be hard to pull that trigger. So as soon as we lose this range support, if we lose that range, I am going to be setting orders. Just hoping to catch a big wick with an instant recovery, because although at COVID it did last, what, a couple weeks maybe? Actually, I don't know. Oh, I think this was all very quick, actually. It would be hard to find on a shorter time frame. That looks like it was 2 weeks, but I'm pretty sure that was right around the weekly candle close, because I remember it happening. I remember when we got this buyback, I want to say it jumped like 40% in the matter of a couple hours. Yeah, I think that's exactly what it was, remembering back to that night, because I remember looking at my phone and being like, holy hell, this is like, Bitcoin is getting absolutely hammered from this COVID scare. And I remember seeing when that recovery happened, it was very quick. And that's what's kind of sticking with me right now, that if we do reach those extremely bearish targets, I want to be quick and I want those orders in place, because I don't want to miss them if it happens. So even though I have these bearish targets, understand that it is technically coming from a bullish place. I am hoping we get down to these levels. That will not make me fear Bitcoin or think that it's going to zero. That will, I don't know if I'm lucky enough to get those prices again, but it's on my radar. And if we lose certain levels, I'm going to have those orders set, basically. Man, we're just not getting back to that lower high signal. I don't know if we're going to get it. We might end up setting a lower low and then another lower high or something. But basically, I'm going to be... Holy hell, you guys. We've been on here for like 2.5 hours. Thank you guys for sticking with me for so long. Holy hell. I just looked at the clock. Basically, my opinion going forward, I'm going to take off here in a few minutes, but moving forward into the evening, I'm going to be looking for these auto charting tool signals. And basically, when we get lower highs, I'm going to be pulling fibs, and I'm going to be trying to short the STUBER fib pocket. If all of a sudden those get, like, as soon as one gets invalidated, I'm just going to pump the brakes and reconsider what I'm doing. But until that happens, I'm just going to try and play the trend. I'm going to hope that it gives me something like what we saw in that Solana chart earlier, where it was just every lower high was just respected so well. So I'm kind of hoping that's what happens here. Yeah, that's basically my plan going into the evening. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for joining me. And like I said, sticking with me for so long. I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. So hopefully you found this stream useful. For those of you watching this on my YouTube channel a little later, if you are interested in my favorite indicators plus access to the VIP Discord, there's an additional 10% discount on checkout using my link down below. I'm personally doing most of my trading on Blofin. It's a no KYC exchange. For those interested, I've maxed out the cashback on my affiliate link, so you actually get 20% back of your trading fees, as well as I think actually my trading promo that I was running is actually just ended today, but there is the no KYC 20% cashback on your trading fees, and once in a while they're just giving me promos even to my existing people. So if you just if you need a new non-KYC exchange, or you just want to back up in general, check out my link down below. With that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.